Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Krista Porter, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Commission's weekly webinar series where we cover a variety of topics that may be of interest to libraries. We broadcast the show live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, but if you're unable to join us on Wednesdays, that's fine. We do record the show as we are doing today, and it will be available for you to watch later at your convenience. And I'll show you at the end of today's show where you can access all of our show recordings. Both the live show and the recordings are free and open to anyone to watch. So please do spread the word about our show to anyone you think might be interested in any of the topics we have on NCompass Live. For those of you not from Nebraska, the Nebraska Library Commission is the state agency for libraries. So it'll be similar to your whatever state library. So we provide services and training and resources and grants to all sorts of libraries in the state. So you'll find shows on NCompass Live for all types of libraries. Public, academic, K-12, corrections, museums, archives, historical societies. The list goes on and on. Really, our only criteria is it's something to do with libraries, the big general concept of libraries. Something cool libraries are doing, something cool we think they could be doing. We bring in guest speakers sometimes to talk about things they're doing in their institutions and their libraries across the country. But we have Nebraska Library Commission staff that do presentations for us as well. And that is what we have this morning. Today, it is the last Wednesday of the month. Oh my gosh, October's almost over. So there's that. And because it's the last Wednesday of the month, that means it is Pretty Sweet Tech Day. That is when our technology innovation librarian, Amanda Sweet, good morning, Amanda. She comes on the show and talks to us about something techie related. We do have shows throughout other times that are tech, possibly too, depending on our schedule. But you can always depend, the last Wednesday a month will always be Amanda coming on and talking about something on the leaning, technology leaning. And today we are talking about WordPress, website planning and training for beginners. We've done many shows about all sorts of things WordPress, but I think I was probably not the first one, but how to do some editing and updating and fun things you can do with it. But today we're talking about if you're a beginner and just want to get started, or you want a refresher on some beginner things maybe. How do you get going with this just to start with if you've have no clue? So I'll hand it over to you, Amanda, to tell us all about how to do our WordPress websites.
Cool. Let me shift that there. And so I've been getting a whole mess of different questions about I need to revamp my website. I don't have a whole ton of time, but I still need to get this website up and running. So how can we do this with little time? Maybe it's just me doing it and I just want to set it up and then do as little as possible to maintain it and keep it going. So that is the theme of today's session. So to do that, we're going to go over the general steps and what it takes to actually plan and set up the website. Then I'll talk about some different brainstorming tools because most people ask me, what do I even need to put on my website? So I put together this whole handy checklist that'll help you out with trying to figure that out. And then I'll work through some different settings that you can use to just do a low maintenance website, and then some different layout options and some tools that you can use to do that more easily. And then we'll wrap it out by going over some of the skills that you actually need to know and where you can go to learn them. So these are just like the general baseline steps, because in order to start brainstorming what you want on your library website, your website's going to be basically representing your library. It's going to be the introduction that people have, and sometimes the only experience people have with your library. So you want to start by actually listing out your services and who those services are actually supposed to reach. And we'll find out why that's important as we go through the rest of these planning steps. So once you have that brainstorm list, you want to actually start gathering together the content and starting to write down what you actually want to appear on that page. I usually just do that in like a Microsoft Word document or a Google Doc, and that makes it easier to just cut and paste it into the WordPress platform when you actually have it sounding the way that you want it to. And putting it there first is also a great way to do some spell check and to make sure that everything's grammatically correct, because where the WordPress platform doesn't always do that. And Google and Microsoft are way better at that way. And then I'll show you some different techniques that you can use to start organizing how your website's going to look. And then I'll show you the steps that you actually need to take that information and that hot mess of stuff that you just put together and then actually organize it and set it up on the WordPress platform itself. And then the staff training and feedback maintenance, will just go over a little blurb of it at the end. And I'll go through kind of the what you need to know to get people up and running. And I also do WordPress trainings. Some of you may have already done like a WordPress orientation call with me. So you can also schedule one of those if you want to get set up, or if you want to do like a little planning run through just one-on-one or in a small group. So the baseline of what every single library just needs is, if you just want bare bones, I put it out on the left-hand side here. People need to know when you're open, where you are, and how to get a hold of you. The contact information would ideally be in a contact form, but if you just have it in a little paragraph that says address, email, phone number, and maybe the contact person of who they would want to reach, then that'll work too. But ideally, just using the contact form. And then a
Something
list. Yeah,
interesting that I've noticed about library websites that I go to, because I also often go to websites to look up about what our libraries are doing here in Nebraska or anywhere, and then to reach out to them sometimes to ask questions or whatever. And there's many libraries that have similar names all across the
yeah,
country.
yeah.
Like West Point Public Library. I don't know if you've got, there's a West Point in New York, there's a West Point in Nebraska, that kind of thing.
Madison's, or there's a
Madison,
Madison.
yeah, very common names. I have the hardest time usually digging up what is their physical location, their
Yeah,
address.
yeah,
I think someone has told people, this is your website presence, so that's where they're going. No, they want to maybe come to your in-person presence.
yeah,
And I have to figure out, is this the right Madison Public Library or whatever library? Is it even in the state I'm trying to find? It's buried at
yeah,
the bottom of the page sometimes, only like as a footer or something. I hit contact and it's just fill out this web form, which is great, but I just want to know what state. So please
yeah,
people going to your website also might need to know, where are you? What state are you in? Put that somewhere much more prominent.
yeah,
That's just a personal pet peeve of mine that I keep coming across.
yeah.
Like, I don't
And
understand why you don't want anybody to find you, like physically come to your.
I see that with a lot of government offices too. I was trying to find where the broadband office was, and I actually had
Oh,
to
our new
email my
one?
contact at the broadband office to find out where they were. And
Where do
originally they were in the DOT building, but then they just recently relocated. And I
Oh.
was like, she was like, "Oh, let's do a meeting." And I was like, "Where?" But yeah,
More info, please. Yes.
and it was nowhere on their website. And I almost missed the meeting because she only saw her email right before. And I was like, okay, yeah,
And I wonder too if some libraries, especially in a small town, I understand you might think, well, everyone who's coming here, it's a small town, everyone knows where we are, everyone knows where everyone is. Maybe, maybe not. New people,
yeah,
people coming from outside, you know.
yeah. There's not like a homing beacon that just says, like, turns everyone into a bird and says, library, library, library. It'd be cool if there were, though. And so this is sort of like the bare bones, but let me click this open and I'll make it a little bigger.
This is nice. Yeah, checklist, everything you need.
So most libraries do not have everything on this list. It's just a checklist brainstorming tool that you can use. and you can put in what you do have. You might decide to add or start services after you see this as a brainstorming tool. But if you
Mhm.
don't have it, don't worry about it. If you have it, add it. So just go through the categories and then you can check it off. And then once you figure out what you need, you can start brainstorming the content you actually want written on your page. So this is linked in the slides. You'll have this.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be on the NCompass site, so you'll have these slides. You can grab them anytime.
Right. Yeah. When we
And
put up the recording of the show, we always have a link to whatever slides anyone has included. So
yep,
we'll have a link to Amanda's slides, her Google slides, along with the archive afterwards that you'll
yep.
all have access to.
And so just take a gander and make a list. And so then we're going to jump over here. So then you want to actually figure out who are these services trying to reach, because you want to make sure that your website is actually reaching the people that you need. And that's important because when you start gathering these resources, you want to be able to organize the information in a way that people can find it. And people will be searching through content and determining whether the library website is relevant to them based on what they see. And that usually happens starting at the homepage. So there are a lot of libraries that want to promote mostly their kids services because they know they're popular, they know that people are looking for them, and that's true. But when people see that the library is splashing only kids story hour and maybe like a magician that's coming in, they say the library only has kids stuff, there's nothing for me. And then they stop going to the library website because that's all you have. But that might not be true. You might also have book club groups that adults can go to. You might have a knitting circle that meets all the time. You might have a um, interest group that comes in. You might have all this different stuff. But if all you put on your homepage is kids stuff, people aren't going to click through to find it. People are generally lazy and they want to know if that website's relevant to them. They want to
And
know if
gratification, or as
yeah,
quickly as
yeah.
possible.
And we're like, I'm sure that we're all guilty of that too. Like we as librarians, we don't have all the time in the world. We go to other websites, and if the homepage doesn't reflect us personally, we click away because there's about a jillion websites in the world. So one of the things that I like to do is I actually I take my little checklist of fun stuff that I put together here and I start organizing it. So I put one topic on a post-it note and I'll say, normally I would actually do this in Zoom because Zoom has a whiteboard feature,
Mm.
but Miro also has one. And you can also, I'm using the digital post-its because it's easier to display in a webinar presentation, but you can also just use straight up physical post-its on your desk
Mhm.
and you can just stick them out there and organize them like that. So, but we're just going to use Miro here because I heart Miro. I'm going to start just a blank board. And I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just using post-its. So I'm going to click on sticky note and I'm going to grab this fun pink color and stick around there. So now I'm going to say about copy paste, and then I'll say services, copy paste, and I'm going to click back over to my little checklist because who wants to do this from scratch? and I'll say kids resources. And then I start adding in copy paste. I'm going to change the color to this fun blue and mission. History. Policies. And then we start doing this just across the board for everything. And I'm going to shrink these down a little just so we can see them all. There. So then we start adding in every top heading is going to be one color, and then these represent what's going to be in a drop-down menu. So we're going to start clustering these so that we are starting to build out what our menu is going to look like and how we're going to organize that website. So let's say services, we have, I can never spell genealogy. I think that's it. Maybe. But you get the idea. And we can also say computer lab. And then as we start putting these different post-its together, you can start figuring out, can some of these actually go on the same web page, or do they have to be separate web pages? Can you combine the computer lab with your makerspace? Or is it going to be in a kids area? Or is it going to be in a teen room? And then you start considering that a lot of people combine the kids and the teens page together, but teens are at the age where they don't want to be considered kids. So they might not click on anything that says kids about it, because that's not how they identify themselves anymore. So you might want to start a separate kids and teens area, and then you have to consider, do you want to say kids and teens on your heading? Because those two groups don't like to be grouped together.
You might end up with, you may have two separate ones, kids and then
Yeah.
teen as its own post-it, pink post-it, yeah.
And there's like a level of content appropriateness, like stuff that some teens are going to be looking at, you might not want kids to be looking at. You might be promoting like a sexual health and wellness thing to a teen, like a late teen group that you wouldn't want kids to be going to, and parents might not want their younger children to see something that's geared toward like a graphic novel series for teens. So yeah, you just have to start considering if you want to split this out. But this post-it exercise is just one of the best ways that you can do to figure out what that'll look like. And you might even decide to put kids as a separate page under services. If you don't have some of this other stuff, it might just be easier to organize it that way. So using this is like a quick drag and drop easy tool that's either digital on Miro, and Miro you can do up to 3 boards for free. So you can do it here or just bust out your post-its, do it on a desk. And this will translate over into the menu. Oh, this is taking so long to load today.
Yeah, there it is. This is one of our
And,
public libraries here in Nebraska, lead Scottsbluff Public Library, if anyone doesn't know.
and I'm actually going to go to Alliance because Scottsbluff changed their site.
Hmm.
And Alliance changed their site. There we go. So this is what your menu would look like. So this top one would be those pink post-its, and any of these drop downs would be those blue post-its. So you're just clustering it by category, and then you would go through and actually create out a page that digs deeper and actually explains a lot of these different services so people actually know what you have to offer. And it's basically just putting together the actual text that's going to be written on the thing, or a lot of libraries just put together an infographic. I know that most people use Canva now just because it's like a quick, easy tool to use. So you don't even have to put a ton into figuring out exactly what phrasing and verbiage you want to use if you're just going to use a quick infographic like this. And infographics are just cool and they look better on a website.
And
So
it catches
when,
people's attention, definitely, all those,
yeah,
yep.
I mean, that's like anyone who sees like a large block of text on the screen where our eyes are just going to start to cross, and then
Mhm.
it's harder to process and use the information. But when you break it up with either in formatting chunks or in with pictures in between, it just gives the brain a break and helps people process information and cluster information so that it's easier to get through. And that's why it's easier to look at this website than it is to look at like a journal or an article website that's just all text on a page.
Yeah, you might have things that are more drawn, more textual based when it's like a blog post or something where you're reporting on
Yeah,
something or writing an article afterwards about the event that we had and reporting on it. But to get people's attention, yeah,
yeah. I mean, like your policies are probably still going to be all text
of
on a
course,
page.
yes.
Like that's fine. Like who cares? But it's just like the stuff like this is going to be, it just looks cooler with a picture. So that's kind of like how you're going to organize the information. And this is just a reminder of how to do it. But when you're actually laying this stuff out, you want to actually consider not everything can actually go on your homepage.
Mm.
They did like a bunch of studies about like how far are people actually going to scroll down on a homepage, and it is not impressively far. I think like the average time was people give it a cursory 10 to 20 seconds, if that. And if they don't see something relevant to them on the homepage when they scroll down, or if you have like a single page website, people don't generally tend to scroll through it unless it's like a tutorial or a course that's on a designated topic. And so you want to start, this is why I repeated putting the hours, location, contact, because that's one of the primary reasons that people even go to a library website is to find out where you are, how long you're open, and or to ask a really specific question. Then they want to know some of your featured resources, and you can promote some of your most commonly used resources. I know that I was picking on the kids services before, but I mean, they are popular. So it is actually nice to have some, like at least a few of those services on there. What I generally recommend for people is that if you have multiple kids services or multiple adult services, that you put on a mini little section on your homepage that says kids services, put one or two different featured resources, and then put a button on there that says see all kids services or see additional kids services. Then put another section right underneath it that says adult services and resources, and then put one or two featured ones and then a button that says see all adult services. and then do that for each one of your major target audiences that you're trying to actually get people into. And that way you're able to reach more people and let people know what you have to offer instead of just featuring all of your best sellers, which might be all kids stuff or might be all genealogy. And you can start getting people in the door for some of the underutilized services that people might not know you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the exercises that I like to run people through is I call it IMA, but you basically list out the target audience and say, I'm a parent, I just went to the homepage, can I find what I need? And if I can't, then that parent's going to drop off and you're not going to be able to attract some of that clientele, customer group, whatever you want to call it, to your library. And it's the same thing with recently retired, job seeker, anybody. People want to know that they're represented in your library and you want to be able to click through and say, you can find these resources. So the top places that you want to put it are on your homepage, which is taking forever to load. This isn't Alliance's thing. This is just things are taking really long to load today for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a thing in general.
Yeah. So they put it onto a rotating, like Alliance specifically put it on like the little rotating thing. One
Mm-hmm.
thing to keep a note of is that they also did more studies about how many little rotating thingamajigs people will sit around
Mm-hmm.
and watch. And usually it's only a few.
Yeah.
Most people, and if this pauses for too long for people to be able to read the text on it, then people might assume that there's only that one on there and they'll just keep on scrolling. And then they won't necessarily see everything that you have to offer. And another thing that you want to keep in mind is that some people are motion sensitive. So
Oh.
when you have one thing that's moving up here and one thing that's continuously moving down here, people get nauseous. Like if I were to leave this screen open and I just kind of kept it going, it's hard to know, like the eye has difficulty knowing where to focus, and it's difficult to read the titles down here. Well, this is also moving up here. So if you have any motion related thing, only use one of them and try to make it a slower motion like it is set down here. But it's just, you can see the effect of what these look like both together. Should I keep making you look at it? I won't. Yeah. So what they do down here is to be able to put in some of the different featured resources. So this is actually set in a 3-pack, and this is primarily just because that's what I know the theme that they use, and I know that the theme like has a 3-pack on um, their template. So these would be saying we primarily do something for little kids, and now we can recommend you some books. And if people are interested in those 3 things, they'll click on it and say, cool. If they're an adult, they'll go up here and say, let me see if I like one of these books. And then they'll jump down here and say, what are some like this frequently asked questions might be kind of a cool thing that you might want to add onto your site, just because if you track with your reference team or your circulation desk and find out what people mostly ask in person, that's a lot of times what people are going to want to know in general. So if they want to be able to know, I am new to the area, I need to get a library card, I need to know what to bring in so I don't have to make an extra trip if I forgot something, then this is kind of a cool thing to have. If people just need to be able to get in to print something on a color printer for a presentation that they have coming up, they're going to want to know if you have like a computer lab or what kind of resources you have. And people will want to, so they'll look at this homepage and they'll take a cursory glance at your menu. So they might look at the services section to see if you have a computer lab or what kind of tech equipment you have. They'll look at any of the events and activities you have coming up. And so one thing that's missing on here that I would like to see is an events page. So in the adults, they have a book club thing, but most people are just going to be looking at which events and activities you have coming up. So this is an organizational thing.
A
That info,
calendar
yeah.
would be, yeah, some sort of just calendar of here's everything, yeah.
So they put it under adults and then book clubs or adults and then programs. So you can actually do it multiple ways. You
Mm-hmm.
can put those pages under the adult section, but you can also put them under a separate events page.
That's true. Stuff can go will fall into multiple, yeah.
Yeah. And they also have these digital skill pages are some that I actually offer as a template. I know that Alliance customized them because they like to customize stuff and it looks cool. So these are some of the different categories that I put together that you can use. And normally I format it without this sidebar, so it actually fills up the whole thing. So you can also do that on your site too, is just fill up the whole section. But these different categories are available to you to put onto your site as well. I actually already have them pre-templatified and it's in this little tabular thing. I set it up slightly different, but I did use my tabs are on the side because I fill up the whole section. But they are available to you. You don't have to do anything to put that together. Just send me an email saying, can you add these? So this exercise is one thing that you might want to consider doing as you're running through your planning process to make sure that you actually have stuff organized in a way that the people you want to reach can find it. And you can start making a chart, like a really quick, simple chart that just says, target audience, services, and I'm going to blow this up so you can actually see it. So let's say that your target audience is recent retirees, and then you list all the different services that they might want to use. And I just put lots of stuff as a placeholder because the list is fine so far. But you would just do this for every single different target audience so that when you do this exercise, you actually have kind of like a reference point to know what links and information you need to trail along the website so that people can connect to the services they actually want. So cool. Oh, and this is at 200%, so I'm just going to drop that down there. And we'll bump this back up there. So now we're on to this part where you will want to start figuring out how to get this information onto your actual website. So to recap, you have gone through the steps of listing the whole hot mess of different services you actually have. This is the list of stuff that you want on your site, and
Mm-hmm.
then you've listed out who actually needs to see it. You've listed out, you've started to write a content page that is just on Google Docs or on a Microsoft Word sheet, and you've listed out the content that you want to cut and paste onto from that document onto WordPress itself. And you've started to gather the images and the pictures of your library, pictures of different events and activities that you want to be able to highlight and feature. You gathered all that mess of different stuff and put it into a folder on your computer so you can find it really easily. And now we're on to the step where you want to transfer all of that mess of stuff and actually organize it into your website. So these are the basic skills that you would actually need to be able to do that. The first one that you would need is these are the one-time things that you will do either one time right in the beginning or just once in a blue moon whenever you have like a new staff member that needs to have an account set up or something.
Mm-hmm.
So each one of these will link over to a tutorial. So you can actually use these slides to be able to refresh yourself or learn for the first time how to do each one of these different things. And some of them will actually be written tutorials and some of them are video tutorials, depending on what you're working with. And let me go back here. So first you want to actually choose the theme that your website is going to look like. The theme is going to indicate how that top little heading section looks. So this is your heading section. It'll indicate, the theme's going to indicate how this menu shows up. Some menus are just like a dark color, like just a full color bar that goes across the whole screen. Some of them are little separated out little blocks. Some of them are customizable so you can adjust it once you get there. Some of them will let you change the background color of your whole website like this here. Some of them won't. Some of them will let you, some of them will automatically have little rounded edges instead of square edges. So, and some of them will have pre-built templates that you can use for your homepage, and some of them just ask you to go rogue. By default, most WordPress websites will actually set you up with a blog, and you'll need to change a separate setting so that it goes from a blog over to a static page like this. So if you don't have a whole ton of time and you can only update this once in a blue moon, I recommend not using a blog format because you'll have a blog that's from October 15th of 2024 and it'll be June of 2025 and you'll have forgotten to update it. So it's easier to actually go through and set up something like this static page that just uses your featured services or your regular recurring services. So if you forget to update it or don't get a chance to update it, then the information will not be out of date because it's one of those evergreen recurring things that you just have all the time. And if you do want to do one of these featured new material resources, you can either do it in a gallery page or you can do it in one of these little sliding, um, it's a slidey thing. I
Mm-hmm.
actually have the term on one of the slides, but I usually go to Amazon and I will download the cover from Amazon so that they're all the same size. And then you can upload them into the sliding gallery or into a full-on gallery page. And if you have the list of titles, downloading it all from Amazon takes all of like 10 or 15 minutes, depending on the number of images you have. And then it's just a matter of uploading it into that gallery, and the gallery automatically formats itself. So it is pretty quick to do once you get used to it.
That's what's nice about WordPress. I think a lot of people are intimidated, like, oh, running a website, I don't know how to
Yeah.
program. That's what it's different now. You don't have to. So many things are just,
Yeah.
we'll do it for you behind the scenes.
So yeah, I love that WordPress added all those features. But I also love this website coolers.co, and I guarantee I have talked about it on Pretty Sweet Tech
Yes.
before. And if you aren't using it, do it. So the color scheme on here, a lot of libraries say we like everything we have is blue. We have this certain shade of blue that's like our town color, that's our community color. We're doing it. And then they wind up trying to approximate other colors, or just their whole website will be a uniform shade of blue, and it'll just be, it's a lot of blue. So to mix stuff up, I go over to coolers.co and I set a color palette. And loading, loading, loading. So I'm just going to go to start the generator. And let's say that the shade of blue that you want is this here. So you lock in that shade of blue, then you hit that spacebar key. And then as you see colors that you like, you can lock it in and then hit the spacebar to start filling in the rest of your colors. And you can also go into those view shades if you want something that's just a hair darker but still matches, or a hair lighter but still matches, and lock her in. And then build out what your page colors are going to look like. And you can use these for the colors for your headings. You can use it for background colors. You can use it for pretty much anything that needs customization. And you can just make sure that everything is just a complementary color using this tool. And I usually choose kind of like a darker color just in case I need a font or something that has high contrast against dark colors.
I think that's
And
really helpful, being able to see how the colors appear on, because I know I've
yeah,
seen too many pages where people just like, oh, I like these two colors, just going to mash them together, and then you can't read the text
yeah.
just because, yeah.
And this will also automatically change the font color so that you know what it works best with.
So that
So
it's
if you
actually,
know, yeah. So if you have everything else that's in a black font and you know that the background color needs to have good contrast, you'll be able to use the shade coloration to know when it's recommended to change over to white instead of black,
mm-hmm. That's slick.
right? Whoever designed coolers is like a genius, and I will love them forever. But yeah. So then you can do this export. Once you have a palette that works for you, you can go into export and you can grab it as any format that you like. Usually I just grab either a PDF, or usually a PDF is pretty good. So I'm going to call it library website palette. And I don't need a description, I don't care. And it'll export this. So you have a PDF picture of the color, like a color swatch, and this is the hex code. So you can copy and paste this code into WordPress so that it knows to grab this color.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have that together, you can have like a pretty nice flowing website And whenever you need to choose a color or choose any kind of image configuration, you can, and even when you're building in Canva, you can circle back to this color palette and use this same color palette when you put together your infographics in Canva so that it'll look good and flow well with your website too. And that way you won't have like a weird random light pink or like fugly orange in the middle of your awesome looking color palette. It'll all flow. And you can also go back here. You can copy and paste this blue back into Canva and then press spacebar until you find a shade of orange that meshes with your Halloween. So you can have it all meshed together like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because who doesn't want orange at Halloween? Go pumpkins. And so you can go through the rest of these and you can click through them. This will help you work through the skills that you need to set up the basic website for the first time, including uploading a header image that goes across the top of your page. So if you don't want this to just be white or a single color, you can actually upload an image that goes across, and that tutorial will help you get the right settings, the right size, and all that. This will help you actually set up that contact form that I was talking about before. These are the steps that you use to actually set up the navigation menu once you've used your post-its to know what it looks like. Then you can translate your post-it system into the actual WordPress system in the navigation. And then once you get new staff members, or if you want to update like the usage roles, you can go into this add and update users. This will help you understand how WordPress user roles work and how to add, remove, and adjust, edit the who has access to make changes to your website and how. And then this jumps into everything from how to log into your website in the first place to how to create and update pages, some of the common things that you would need to know to set up a basic page, how to actually set up that events manager so that you have a functioning calendar on your website. And then this is optional because remember I said that if you have a lot of time to make updates to your website, then a blog is awesome. It's amazing. It helps people know what's going on a continual basis, but you don't need a blog if you don't want one, or if you just know that you are a solo librarian and that's just not going to happen.
Sounds the way.
So, yeah. And fun fact is that if you know how to update pages, all of these skills also apply to posts because you can add all this stuff to a page or a post. So when you've mastered this, you know how to do this. And then once you've gone through those basic skills, these are optional intermediate skills. So you can start adding different features and different styles and layouts and making your pages look cooler. So these talk about how to add those buttons that I was talking about. You could easily put the buttons on the basic skills because they're super easy to do. Like they only have a few steps to be able to go through, and there's a whole fun video that'll show you how to do it. And then you can, the most common question I get is probably how do I embed PDFs or how do I link to a PDF? Most library policies, it's easier to link to the
Have a separate
PDF policy.
document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And otherwise, if you try to embed all of your PDFs, all of your policies as a PDF, you get this weirdly long thing that's really hard for people to navigate.
Yeah.
So when you link to it, people can actually open it up and it'll automatically open in a separate little tab, and then people can download the whole policy as a separate PDF. And it's just easier for people to work with. And you can also use this WP forms to be able to have people register for different events. You can have them sign up for raffles. You can have them um, fill out library surveys. to say which services are you interested in, what worked, what didn't, get feedback. And this one, right down at the bottom, will show you how to use Elementor to do advanced page layouts.
Mm.
And
And you've done previous NCompass Live shows about
yeah,
using Elementor too. So if you want more detailed instruction about that from Amanda,
yeah.
check in our NCompass Live archives.
And so you can check out that one, and you can also check out the tutorial series that Elementor put together for you. So if you want to get really all up in Elementor, you can do that. And there we go. So kind of the last thing that we'll touch on is when you're trying to figure out, I've had some, like a lot of like a lot of librarians will reach out to me and say, can you train this person? Like we have a new person who's just starting, can you train them on WordPress? And then I go, sure, what do they actually need to know? Like, what do you want me to focus on? And they just say, I don't know, tell them everything. And I'm like, that's a lot of stuff. And so when you're actually doing staff training, it's more effective to be able to say, I want this person to be able to update the homepage. I want them to be able to use Canva to create new infographics. I want them to be able to update the the kids pages to update the new services, and I want them to know how to use the events portal. This is the list of stuff that we know needs to be updated frequently. And now I want to do a training schedule to be able to, like, I want to schedule a training to be able to do that. Because when you say, I just want you to know how to use WordPress, that's really broad. It's overwhelming for the new person who's actually starting because they're probably learning WordPress alongside all their other tasks and duties and getting onboarded as like a circ person or a ref person or whoever, like wherever their position is. And they're going to forget half of what they learned about just WordPress in general. But they'll remember the stuff that says, this is how you use WordPress to update the homepage. I know that one of my tasks is to update this section of the homepage. Check, I know how to do that. And when you also give that new person or give yourself a schedule that says, I really want to maintain a blog, I'm going to add a task onto my Outlook calendar or onto my calendar that says, this blog is going to be updated every Monday at 8 a.m. or I'm going to set aside one day every month and I'm going to schedule out the next 10 blog postings, and then I don't have to worry about it for the next 2 or 3 months. And setting that update schedule so that you have a physical reminder that pops into your calendar and says, you're going to deal with the website today. You're going to do this one task and now you're done. And then you can set your own calendar, set your staff's calendar, and then make sure that they have a link over to the tutorial that'll remind them to do it. One thing that I do recommend doing for both yourself and for your library staff is when you're setting up this calendar, there's a description field in most calendars, and you can copy and paste the appropriate tutorial so that you don't have to go back and find it again. So if you say, I'm going to update the blog posting, copy and paste a link to create and update posts, and copy and paste a link to how to embed images, slideshows, and galleries. And now those two tutorials are right there for you, and it takes less time for you to do it. And you can also give people access to this slideshow so that they can go through and look at this themselves and refer back to this as they need it. So that is how I recommend doing the staff training and website maintenance so that it actually kind of gets done. So there is that. So we are almost at 11 o'clock. and I've gone through pretty much what I need to go through. I did forget to put a where to ask questions slide, but that is easily fixed. Fine, I'll do Control V. There. And do not link there.
There.
The slideshow is probably not super relevant to you, and neither is this.
Here's Amanda's contact info. Perfect.
Cool. So if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask them as you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, everyone who does want help with their websites, you can reach out to Amanda. Anybody has any questions right now you want to ask? Nobody had anything through your presentation. That's okay. Sometimes just listening, absorbing it all, and that's great.
It's a lot of stuff.
I'm trying to, okay. Oh, we have a question about themes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Theme questions. How do I know what features a particular theme will have or what it might look like? And then how difficult is it to change to another theme from a current one?
So usually it is pretty easy to switch from theme to theme. When you do switch from one theme to another, there is a preview button. So before you
Okay, so you
pull
can
the
see what's going to
trigger,
look up
yeah.
before you commit. Yeah.
And so you can preview it, start to customize it, and if you like the way that that looks, you can click on the actual activate button, and then it'll go through. If you go to the themes website, a lot of the websites will actually show the customized pages that are available in the templates. Some of the themes require you to install a separate plugin to be able to gain access to the actual templates themselves. And that plugin has had mixed luck with actually functioning. So, for example, I just tested out a theme that's called Starter Plugins. And Starter Plugins is supposed to work with Astra and a bunch of the major themes, but it didn't load. And it didn't load because it was too resource heavy. It was just it took too long to load, and it was trying to load too many things to be able to function. So it just didn't work. So even if a theme promises that it has a gajillion pre-made templates, there is no guarantee that that pre-made template will work.
Yeah. So you should be able to get a preview to see what it's going to look like, but also switching from theme to theme is really an instant thing once you find one you like. So, I mean, you could also make it your theme, check out your website and see if you even like it, if it's working, and if not, switch it back, switch to a different one. Yep. There's no time like delay. It's, you're in charge of your site. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're definitely not locked into it. Like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some experimenting and like playing around, seeing what you like, what you think looks good. Some places, depending on what it is, like I know some universities or government, they have a theme or colors that they prefer, they want you to use, because it's branded as something for the university or for the city. So that's something you'd have to work with as well.
So for example, these are the themes. So if I wanted to test out Dara, I do live preview. And then this is where I said that it makes a big difference about the major thing that you want to look for in a theme is if you like the way this top section looks and if you like the way the menu looks, because that is going to be the hardest thing to customize. And not all themes will let you customize all the colors. So for example, this Dara one will let you customize the header and the background color, but not much else. but Nirvana will let you customize just about everything. So, and these will also go into, so this is the general customization, and some themes will also have additional customization in their theme settings. So the Nirvana and some of the other themes also use a cryout theme setting plugin, and that extends the number of features and the number of settings that are available. And so this is actually using the Nirvana theme. Oh, I changed this one to Astra when I was testing. It's going to be using Nirvana again in a second. And Astra is also an incredibly popular theme. So if you're looking for a new one, that's a good one. But this starter templates is the thing that is supposed to have all these amazing grab and go templates. And the tutorial looks awesome. But when I installed it and when I tried to use it and I went to build with templates, it got stuck here. So this is actually what I wanted to offer and what I installed, but it just wasn't having it. I'm gonna try it again in like a day or two just to see if this is like if they are running an update and it's just running slow. But this actually has a collection of awesome tutorials and templates for different editors, and this would be awesome. But right now it's just gray boxes. That's not helping anybody. Yeah.
We have another question here about adding a catalog to a website. Is there a particular way to do that? Is it different depending on the system, or is like if your online catalog, making that be part of your library's website?
So some catalogs actually have pre-built widgets that can be inserted into the site. And some of them are, you just insert a link that says go to library catalog, and people click the link and yeah. And some, I've also created button images so that people can click the button image and go to the catalog. So yeah, it depends on the service.
But generally, there's not something, it doesn't matter whatever your catalog is. You generally be linking out to it, not putting it into the library website. It's its own.
In rare cases, there'll be like a widget that you can use that you can embed into the platform. Like oh, I just set up a website that was for Seward. It was for Seward.
And that widget would come from
that actually comes from the vendor. So
the
that
vendor
comes
from either Apollo, Horizon, wherever, right? That doesn't come from.
Yeah. So this would be an example of a widget. And this was actually partially custom built by Seward's people and partly by the vendor itself. So if there's a widget, the vendor will have set up something like this, and it'll just be a little snippet of code that gets put into a certain area of the site. And I'm dearly hoping that the starter template is not working just because the internet is slow. And if
we have a question about that too. Someone wants to know, is WordPress always slow? Every time I want to put a new post on the website, it takes forever to load.
Yeah. So
WordPress thing, is that a local thing? How is
So Vern, our IT guy here, he has been trying forever to find out why it's been going so slow. And he eventually found out that because of the way some of the websites were set up, it means that when certain areas of the website are loaded, it's actually loading all images and content from across all the library websites
Oh my
before loading that page. So he's actually been trying to find a way to make it not do that. So
God.
the reason that it's slow in some cases is because it's loading too much stuff at one time. And it's because of a duplicator plugin that we used way back when. And that one was actually used before my time,
A
so I
long
don't
time,
even know
yeah.
which websites were set up using it. But the file path got routed weird, so it actually loads a bunch of websites before loading the actual site.
Yeah. Now, this is specifically for those of you who aren't here in Nebraska. We host websites for libraries. I don't know if you went much into that, or
No,
yeah,
I did not. I should have. I
yeah.
didn't though.
Well, we do have a program here, Nebraska Libraries on the web. If you are a Nebraska library and need a website, want a website, we would host that for you. And that's what that's what she's talking to there. But you can go directly to WordPress to do your own hosting, however you want that. But we do have a program here where for free, costs you nothing except for the time to update and maintain, learn how to do it, and everything we were just talking about today, updating
Yeah.
and maintaining your paid website. But we will host for free any public library that needs a website.
Oh, the internet is so slow today.
Yeah. And we do use WordPress, yeah.
Yeah.
And Amanda would be the person to talk to ask about you if you do want a website, or if you have one. We have some libraries I know who years ago somebody set them up with it, because we've had this Nebraska Libraries on the Web program for, I can't remember how long, but a long time. Anyway, but if you have one and you have not updated it in a while and you need to get back up to speed on that, or you have someone you want to be in charge of that, Amanda will be the one to reach out to see, because I sometimes hear libraries contact me saying, someone before set this up, the previous director, I don't have the login info, I don't know how to get to it. What do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna close some of this hot mess of stuff because
Yeah, that's slowing things down a bit, yeah.
yeah. And it's because this was supposed to have loaded before and this whole
There you
top
go. That's
section
better,
didn't
yeah.
even load. So I'm hoping when the internet's running faster that some of those starter templates are back online.
Yeah.
But
And you can look here, we do have a list of participating libraries for this program. So if you want to see if your library already does have one through us, this would be the list.
yep.
You may or may not know about it. Like we know we've had staff changes and people come on and like we do. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Costs you nothing. You just got to reach out to Amanda to get back on board with it. Or if you want to have a website, some libraries, they have their city webpage, and that's great. You can have that. You can have this in addition to that. Some municipalities like to have, each department has this page that's part of the city's site, but you could also have something separate that's the library with more in-depth information, something you have more control over or that you can use. If you're not from Nebraska, check and see if there's something like that your state's offering. Yeah.
And we actually do have, I'm updating the number of libraries because we actually do have some more now.
New ones. Nice, nice. All right, so anybody have any other questions you want to ask before we wrap things up? We are a little after 11. Thank you for everyone for sticking around with us while we're finishing things up here. You can type into the questions section of your interface if you have any. We have some thank yous. Thank you to me and you. Thanks, everyone. You're welcome. You're welcome. You do have Amanda's contact info as well.
Yep, that is freshly on here.
Yep. And we'll have a link to these slides when the recording goes up.
Yep.
I'm going to switch to my screen now to do my little wrap up. We just someone says no questions, but thank you for presenting. It's going to be really useful. Well, good. That's the idea. Definitely. And there were a lot of resources in those that I know you saw in the slides that I did not go to every single one of them because there is so many different bits and parts of using WordPress. But all those links are there. When you do get to that stage, you can go to those more in-depth tutorials from WordPress. So I think, thank you. Oops, someone's going to be in touch. Appreciate the information. So yeah. So that wraps up for today's show. I'm going to go to this is our show page for today, but I'm going to go to our main NCompass Live page. Thank you everyone for attending. Everyone who attended and registered for today's show will get a notification from me when the recording is ready. Should be by the end of the day tomorrow at the latest, as long as GoToWebinar and YouTube cooperate with me. This is our main NCompass Live page. Use whatever your search engine of choice is and type in NCompass Live. You'll come up with this page and our archive page, which is linked right here underneath our upcoming shows. Today's show will be at the top of the list, most recent ones first. As I said, there'll be a link to the recording on our YouTube channel and a link to Amanda's slides, her Google Slides link. I also mentioned you can search our show archives if you want to see if we've done a show on a particular topic you might be interested in. You can search the full show archives or just the most recent 12 months if you want something very current. That is because this is, and I'm not going to scroll all the way down. We talked about that earlier. A lot of people, the scrolling is jarring, but this is our full show archives going back to when NCompass Live first premiered, which was January 2009. So we're 16 years now. Yeah. And we have all of our show recordings here. So just pay attention whenever you are watching any of our shows to the original broadcast date. They all have a date on here so you know exactly when the show first happened. Many of our shows will be fine to watch, this and test of time, still be good, useful information, but some things will become old and outdated. Resources may change, no longer exist anymore. Links may be broken. People may work at a different place than when they presented for us. So just pay attention when you are watching any of our old shows. But we will, as long as we have a place to hold all of these shows, host them, we will. It's something libraries do. We keep things for historical purposes. So as long as we have a place to keep them all, which right now is the Library Commission's YouTube channel, we'll always have the show archives available here. And I'd mentioned Elementor. I spelled it right. There we go. That Amanda's done previous shows about. Templates, walk through from blank page, more responsive layouts. So if you want to dig more into Elementor, you can.
And there's a ton of tutorials on YouTube too. Like Elementor just made like a mess of them.
I saw that list, the whole playlist there.
Yeah.
So we do have some social media we use. We have a Facebook page I've got linked for the show. We post here reminders. Here's a reminder about logging in today's show, when our recordings are available. So we'll post out here. We use the hashtag NCompLive, a little abbreviation on here, on the Library Commission's the Instagram page and Twitter page. So we do use all of that to promote things about the show as well. So if you want to keep up with us on any of those places, you can like us, like the show on Facebook and the Library Commission on Instagram and Twitter if you want to. Ooh, God bless you.
Didn't quite get them covered in time.
Thing I want to share. Next week's show, I'll hope you join us. We'll be talking about summer reading. I know you just wrapped up this year's summer reading. I know. But as soon as you take a few weeks off, I know you start thinking about next year. And we have Sally Snyder, our coordinator of Children and Young Adult Library Services, will be with you next week to talk about book titles that you could possibly use for next year's theme, which is Color Our World. The theme is art and creativity, which is very broad. So if you are thinking about summer reading, this would be the session to sign up for Sally's summer reading program. And those of you who know what we do here, Sally does also do her best new children's and teen titles of the current year. Those are both also scheduled. So if you want to see what she thought her favorite books are for children for 2024 and teens, we got those coming up in December. And yeah, we're already talking about January.
Wow.
So you can sign up for that and any of our other upcoming shows.
And Internet Librarian Recap will be the next Pretty Sweet Tech.
It'll be Pretty Sweet Tech in November. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
We'll get that updated on here. Yep. Because Internet Librarian just happened.
Yep. I think that was last week before.
Yeah.
Time blurs sometimes.
It was just last week.
Yeah.
Time flies. Yeah.
You know.
So we'll do an Internet Librarian recap. Awesome. All right. So look forward for that for Amanda's next show. And as you can see in here, we don't have anything. And if you notice, you were watching our slides at the beginning, we are taking December off for Pretty Sweet Tech. So there'll be November, and then she'll be back in January. The way the schedule, just the way the calendar goes, Christmas is on a Wednesday, and then New Year's Day is on a Wednesday. And being a state agency, these are both federal and state holidays for us here. So we are closed. So we're actually taking 2 weeks off from the show itself. So there won't be a Pretty Sweet Tech in December, and then we'll be off for January 1st as well. So there'll be a little break, holiday break for us at the end of the year and beginning of January. But next Pretty Sweet Tech with her, Internet Librarian wrap up. All right. And the last thing I just want to mention to everyone, in addition to doing this NCompass Live show online, we also host the Big Talk from Small Libraries online conference in coordination with the Association for Rural and Small Libraries. The call for speakers is open. So if you are from a small library, small rural of any type, and you want to present, please do submit a proposal. Our speakers are all from libraries with an FTE or population served of 10,000 or less. 10,000. So we are talking the little ones. The actual event is on Friday, February 28th, and it's online using the same GoToWebinar software we're using here today, so you don't have to travel anywhere. You just present online. We've got all of our previous conferences here, so you want to see what we've done before. But if you are a small library, you know someone who's something really cool you might want to, you think they should share, submit a proposal to our Big Talk from Small Libraries. All right, I think that's everything. Got the link there, Amanda. I see you just sent that. Cool, to your slides. Let me click that before we close things. Click it. There we go. There we go. So we'll have that for when the recording is up. Everyone who attended today's show and registered for today's show will get an email from me sometime tomorrow letting you know when the recording is available. And we also pushed out all of our social media too. So that's it. All right. And hopefully, thank you everyone for being here. And thank you, Amanda. We'll see you at the end of November.
Yep.
And see you all on a future episode of NCompass Live. Bye-bye.